planet. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem!
The creation of the celebrated writer Roy Thomas and artist Sal Buscema, Hyperion might be one of the lesser-known heroes of Marvel, but there are no second thoughts about him being immensely powerful in the Marvel multiverse. For starters, he is the closest to what Marvel has in terms of Superman, and his character reminds fans of the Man of Steel in more ways than one can imagine. Over the years, there have been multiple versions of Hyperion, and when it comes to the original Hyperion, the character first appeared in the 69th issue of the Avenger back in the year 1969. In today's video, we will be exploring the origins of Hyperion, one who is often addressed as the Superman of Marvel Comics. So if you're ready, let's dive right into it. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a very small click for you, but for us, it means a whole lot. So thank you, and let's begin.
An order!
Superman of Marvel Comics, the backstory of Hyperion explained. The first Hyperion, or should we say the Hyperion of Earth 616, goes by the civilian name Zibran, who believes that he is from the Microverse. Now, for those of you who are unaware of the Microverse, a trip down there usually requires one to be reduced to a subatomic size. Full credits to an Elder of the Universe, or the Grand Master in simpler words, who enlarged Hyperion from his minuscule size and placed him on the Squadron Sinister supervillain team, allowing him to battle Kang the Conqueror and the Avengers. To know more about the backstory of Hyperion, we will be taking a peek into his comic book appearances, issue 70 of the Avengers, titled Enter the Squadron Sinister, focusing primarily on the storyline of Hyperion. The time period that we are looking at happens to be the 41st century, and a team of Avengers has been assembled by a time-traveling Kang the Conqueror. The readers learn that Kang has accepted the cosmic challenge of the Grand Master and selected the Avengers as his champions against Grand Master's Squadron Sinister. An attempt to eliminate the Grand Master has been carried out, but it did not work out in Kang's favor. After all, underestimating the ancient cosmic being would be a foolish thing to do in the first place. Iron Man is next seen joining Captain America, Thor, and Goliath, and confirming his presence as the fourth member of the Avengers team. The readers, along with Iron Man, learn that if the Avengers are not able to defeat the Grandmaster's four champions, then not only will the future of Earth be completely destroyed, but it will also be as if their planet never really existed at all in the first place. Suddenly, the astral images of the members of the Squadron Sinister start appearing before the Avengers. The super athletic Nighthawk, the steel-muscled Hyperion, Dr. Spectrum and his power prism, and lastly, the ultra-swift Wizard. All these supervillains were created with the sole purpose of defeating the Avengers and winning the cosmic game for the Grandmaster. The Avengers are stunned when the four sinister forms begin to glow, only to change themselves into the images of Earth's most famous monuments. Witnessing the images of the Statue of Liberty, the Taj Mahal, Big Ben, and the Sphinx before them, the Avengers are finally able to get the hang of the cosmic game. But before Thor can make use of his enchanted hammer to transport each of the Avengers to their respective fields of battle, Iron Man takes off from the scene, while stating to his fellow Avengers that he has already chosen the Taj Mahal. Thor eventually resorts to the space-spanning powers of his Mjolnir, and then the rest of the members transported to the remaining monuments on the far-flung corners of the embattled globe. Captain America encounters Nighthawk at the Statue of Liberty and initially gets incapacitated by the supervillain. To his horror, Captain America discovers that Nighthawk has already stolen the statue with the help of his Hawk plane. What follows is an intense battle between the duo, one that ends up with Captain America gaining advantage over Nighthawk and ultimately managing to stop the villain from stealing the statue. Meanwhile, in India, Iron Man is seen engaging himself in a fierce battle against Dr. Spectrum. Upon learning that Dr. Spectrum's power prism has a polychromatic shield, Iron Man pretends to fall down and hurt himself so he could use its ultraviolet light, which has proven to be far more superior than Dr. Spectrum's prism. Speaking of Thor, he has made his way to Egypt, where he is waiting to meet his opponent. Hyperion makes quite an entry and introduces himself as the most powerful member of the Squadron Sinister. Addressing the Thunder God as a mere brothersome insect, Hyperion attempts to smash Thor underfoot, but Thor ends up dodging his attempt. Hyperion tells Thor about his world, one that was an atom, too small for man to see, but not small enough to escape, being the first atom split by a man-made cyclotron. But Hyperion survived, and he kept drifting into the atomic void till he he was awakened and enlarged by the Grand Master. Of course, Hyperion has vengeance on his mind, and he has just the amount of power that he needed to wipe out the planet. He is seen using the power of his atomic vision on Thor, but Mjolnir ends up absorbing the searing bursts. Intrigued by the power of the enchanted hammer, Hyperion decides to let Thor's meager mallet strike him. The consequence of his actions has Hyperion shrunk to a tiny size and confined inside a bubble formed of glazed sand.
Just about all possumed out here. Give me something. Anything.
Different origin stories of Hyperion. Marcus Milton, Earth 13034. The last of the everlasting and cosmically empowered race known as Eternals, this version made his way to Earth as a baby. He was brought up by a human being called Father and under the civilian name of Marcus Milton. Having been educated on the prevailing standards of social behavior, Marcus grew up to become the superhero Hyperion, one who defended the world along with his superhero team known as the Squadron Supreme. As fate would have it, his reality collided with another and everything turned red that day. Hyperion did his best to stop the annihilation of his reality. He even held the two worlds apart, but the destruction was inevitable. Everything and everyone died except for Hyperion, who drifted into literal nothingness, or an interdimensional void to be more precise, lost and sick with loss. Eventually, he was discovered by a group of brilliant AIM scientists, pulled into the Earth 616 universe and held captive till he was rescued by the Avengers. Mark Milton, Earth 712. This native of Earth 712 was once the last surviving member of an otherworldly race known as Eternals. We aren't sure what exactly the circumstances were, but he is reported to have been taken in by the Milton family, who brought him up as Mark Milton. Instilled with a strong moral code, Mark and Do, of course, embraced his superhuman powers and became the superhero Hyperion. He also moved to Cosmopolis in New Troy, took up a job in a news publication as a cartoonist, and crossed paths there with a reporter called Lonnie Latimer. The duo fell in love and started seeing each other. Now, if we take a look at his early stints as a hero, Hyperion encountered Emil Burbank, who was more popularly known as Master Menace. Additionally, he met Nighthawk at the start of his heroic career, grew close to him, and together with other heroes, they eventually formed the Squadron Supreme. For those of you who are not aware of the Squadron Supreme, they are basically a group of heroes who primarily fought for justice on their planet. Some of his adventures with the Squadron Supreme include battles with the supervillain team of Earth 712, known as the Institute of Evil, as well as Nathaniel Richards, who is more popularly known as Scarlet Centurion. Hyperion also crossed paths with the Avengers, or heroes of Earth 616, who were inadvertently transported to Earth 712, and it was the combined effort of Hyperion, the Squadron, and the Avengers that thwarted Brainchild from wreaking immense damage on Earth. There have been many instances where Hyperion and Squadron Supreme have clashed with the Avengers, but thankfully the heroes of Earth 616 have been able to resolve this situation. There was a time when some film producers started making a movie which was based on the escapades of the Squadron Supreme on Earth 712, and this led to Hyperion taking a trip down to Earth 616 to ask the Avengers to take part in the flick. Hyperion got into a fight with Thor, unaware that the entire thing was a setup created by Emil Burbank and the Earth 616 evil version of Hyperion. Of course, when the duo uncovered the truth, they joined forces and easily defeated their enemies. Amongst a horde of other instances which deserve to be mentioned, one involving Hyperion and the Squadron being influenced by the Overmind and the demonic entity Null deserves special mention. Apparently, Overmind and Null had taken control of the entire world and gone to the extent of making use of the Squadron Supreme as their A1 force. Thanks to the timely intervention of the defenders from Earth 616, that the Squadron, along with the whole world, was finally liberated from the manipulation of Null and Overmind. However, the world was still left in a state of utter chaos and confusion. This led to Hyperion making up his mind that it was mandatory on the part of the Squadron Supreme to gain control of the whole world. Post a meeting with the members of the Squadron, the group decided to volunteer themselves as the protectors of the world, but on a larger scale. Hyperion further suggested that they focus on the actual evils of the world, namely poverty, crime, hunger, and death. The superhero even helped the Squadron in reinstating basic human commodities and safeguarding the world from threats such as the Institute of Evil and Scarlet Centurion. The Squadron took things up a notch higher when they disposed of the world's weapons and instead replaced them with non-lethal firearms like the force field devices and energy pistols, which usually confined their targets in spheres. The squadron also produced cryogenic devices in order to keep the fatally ill frozen until they could be restored back to good health. However, the most contentious of all was the B-Mod machine, which was basically a device that got rid of the culpable attributes of those who were apprehended. Now, while this device was used on a voluntary basis, a large number of the Squadron Supreme members left the group after the machine was used for other purposes. With Hyperion primarily assisting the squadron in subjecting their enemies to the B-Mod machine, Nighthawk ended up assembling a group of villains and squadron defectors to thwart Hyperion's plans of turning Earth into a utopia. Emil Burbank, on the other hand, afraid that he would be put through the B-Mod machine, pulled the Earth 616 evil version of Hyperion out of a dimensional limbo and orchestrated a scheme, one that would swap the Earth 712 Hyperion with the evil Earth 616 Hyperion. While Burbank was successful in trapping the Earth 712 Hyperion in the same dimensional limbo, the evil Earth 616 Hyperion ended up falling in love with Zarda Shelton, more popularly addressed as the Power Princess. The evil Hyperion went to the whole extent of killing Zarda's aged husband, after which he began a relationship with her. And that's not all. He also trapped Burbank in the same dimensional limbo along with the Earth 712 Hyperion. The old rivals were left with no choice but to work together and free themselves from the dimensional limbo. The Earth 712 Hyperion came back and challenged the evil Hyperion to a battle where he eventually overpowered him. While the Earth 712 Hyperion was successful in killing the evil Hyperion, he did suffer a personal loss. He had overused his atomic vision to an extent that it literally left him blind. It was later that he was provided with a special glasses that permitted him to see. Many attempts to dismantle Hyperion's Utopia program were carried out, one of which ultimately cost Hyperion the life of his best friend Nighthawk. The death of his closest friend did have an impact on Hyperion, and the program was later reported to have been dismantled. Marvelous story arc of the sun god Hyperion. As an Avenger, one of Hyperion's primary tasks was to save the apprehended members that were being held by the gardener Ex Nihilo, his sister Abyss, and an Aleph. Of course, he was able to save them, after which he came back to Earth and went to the other Avengers to the areas that were affected by the origin bombs of Ex Nihilo. It was on his journey to the Tropical Perverse, or in other words, the Savage Land, where he discovered the Children of the Sun, a race of humanoid creatures who were a creation of Ex Nihilo. Hyperion spent a lot of time with the children, taking care of them, educating them, and thereby becoming their father in the process. In fact, there came a time when Hyperion left the Avengers team with the sole purpose of continuing to teach the Children of the Sun. He later joined Roberto da Costa, aka Sunspot's new Avengers team, in order to probe deeper into the incursions, which were mainly the consequences of a contraction in the timeline of the multiverse. The goal was to locate the source of the decay of the multiverse, which led to Sunspot resorting to the resources of the advanced idea mechanics and putting into effect a certain device that could have individuals transported all across the multiverse. A group addressing themselves as the Multiversal Avengers volunteered for the mission, and it goes without saying that Hyperion was one of them. As the Multiversal Avengers continued with their journey, they arrived at the base of the powerful beings known as the Black Priests. While initially they regarded the Black Priests as their opponents, they soon figured out their real intentions, which was saving the multiverse, of course. No wonder the Multiversal Avengers joined forces with the Black Priests and discovered their real enemies, the Ivory Kings, who were also known as the Beyonders, and the supremely powerful Rabum Alal, aka Dr. Doom. The Black Priests were given the task of locating Rabum Alal, and the Multiversal Avengers went after the Beyonders. After traveling across several universes, the Multiversal Avengers encountered a rift in time and space from which two Beyonders emerged who told them to turn back. However, the Multiversal Avengers were simply in no mood to do that, and they faced their enemies. It is safe to say, no one survived against the incoming threat of the legions of Beyonders. Before and after the storm, with the rebirth of Earth 616, not only did Hyperion resurrect, but so did the rest of the world. Hyperion left the Avengers and joined forces with the Squadron Supreme. It was during his first mission with the Squadron that Hyperion chose extreme levels of violence and ended up severing the head of Namor while using the power of his atomic vision and killing him instantly. The death of Namor led to Squadron Supreme becoming a controversial team, one that further put them at odds with the Avengers. No wonder Hyperion was absolutely plagued by his own actions and was later seen taking on a secret identity. As planned, he became a truck driver. The Chitauri invasion. With the arrival of the Chitauri, Hyperion was amongst the superheroes to hold the line against the shape-shifting aliens, while Iron Man and Ironheart, on the other hand, stabilized the faulty planetary defense shield. But it was soon discovered that the force field was intentionally caused by an alternate version of Captain America, who used it mainly as some kind of a diversion for his own operations. With Rogers turning on the shield, his actions left Hyperion along with the other superheroes in Earth's orbit, while Hydra, on the other hand, took control over the USA. No wonder Hyperion was gravely wounded while fighting against the Chitauri, and he was able to make it back to Earth only after the shield was brought down by the new Quasar, Avril Kincaid. After returning back, he joined forces with the other superheroes to aid them in ending Hydra's reign. Different versions of Hyperion. Exiles. As a member of the reality-hopping team, Weapon X, King Hyperion was exceptionally cold-blooded and was always on the mission to overpower alternate Earths. However, he was in due course overthrown by Blink and an alternate version of Gambit. Despite having his own body blown to bits and pieces, Hyperion survived and he recovered with time. Now, there's no denying that Hyperion had revenge on his mind, but he got entangled in a battle with two alternate versions of himself, one of which included the Earth 712 version. This led to King Hyperion getting banished to his home reality only to escape from there. He was later seen in the Earth 616 reality's Russia, fighting against the Winter Guard in the Blue Marvel. He was also chosen by Luke Cage for the Thunderbolts program, and it should not come as a surprise at all when we tell you that he turned on the Thunderbolts on their very first mission together. It was Ghost who eventually brought down Hyperion after the former used the nanites in the latter's spine to dose him with the Argonite. Marvel Zombies Supreme. There was a time when scientists of the Earth 616 reality ended up inserting the DNA of the Squadron Supreme members of the Earth 712 inside regular human bodies, then zapped them with a radiation in order to generate their own Squadron Supreme. While the goal was to achieve disease-curing awareness and understanding of the genetics, that certainly did not happen. Instead, the bodies were reanimated as zombies. Well, not just any zombies, but the ones who considered themselves to be the original Squadron Supreme. Hyperion's attempt to escape the lab facility was a success, and he went on a complete eating spree in Kansas. It is a different thing that he eventually found the willpower needed to come to a realization and put an end to the absolute madness. Paradise X. In this miniseries, a different version of Hyperion is taken on by the Machine Man and made to be a part of his squadron of interdimensional heralds. Secret Wars 2015. A different version of Hyperion is seen making an appearance on Battleworld during Secret Wars in the 4-issue miniseries Squadron Sinister. Here, Nighthawk is seen working behind Hyperion's back and then make Wizard look guilty so as to make Hyperion incinerate him, while also causing Dr. Spectrum to escape when he also gets framed. After this, Nighthawk is seen blasting Hyperion with an Argonaut gun and incapacitating him to an extent that he ends up strangling Hyperion to death with his bare hands.
Your methods are severe. Your power makes some people nervous.
By people, do you mean the Avengers?
How powerful is Hyperion? One cannot be addressed as the Superman of Marvel Comics just like that. Hyperion here will give you plenty of reasons that will state just how powerful he is. We will begin with his enhanced sight, which allows him to see things that the average man cannot even fathom in the first place. We are talking about Hyperion observing strands of DNA. Next, let's talk about his enhanced senses, which allow him to hear radio frequencies which people are not even aware of in the first place, and also smell otherwise odorless poisonous gases. Then, There's his superhuman speed, reflexes, and agility, along with his enhanced durability and healing factor, which makes him incredibly powerful. In terms of his strength level, he is in a class 95 and in some cases a class 100 plus, which mind you, puts him in almost the same category as Captain Marvel or the Sentry for that matter. Also, like Superman's heat vision, Hyperion has his atomic vision, which he certainly made use of to defeat his enemies. Lastly, it's his mastery over cosmic energy that always works out in his favor. Let's not disregard the fact that he is an Eternal at the end of the day.
I really do love your cape.
Other media appearances of Hyperion. Voiced by Travis Willingham, the character of Hyperion has made an appearance in the animated superhero TV series The Superhero Squad Show in the episode titled Whom Continuity Would Destroy. Here, Hyperion, Power Princess, and Nighthawk are pulled from their reality by the Grandmaster to combat against Iron Man, Scarlet Witch, and the Hulk. Voiced by Brian Bloom, Hyperion has also appeared in the animated TV series Avengers Assemble, first in a self-titled season 1 episode where he is shown to be a member of the Red Skull's cabal, but gets betrayed by them. Then he appears in the second season where his character is seen reuniting with the Squadron Supreme and attempting to subject the Earth to their tyranny, only to get defeated by the Avengers and then locked up in a vault. Well, with this we finally come to the end of our video here, so hit us up with your thoughts in the comment section below and let us know, what do you like most about Hyperion, the Superman of Marvel Comics? Also, stay tuned for more exciting content to come. And if you liked our content today, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. And in the meantime, have a good one and be safe. Thank you, everybody.